We're joined now by the one, the only RK over from DNVR. RK, first time on PHNX Sun Devils, but I feel like it's been a long time coming, man.
Yes, actually, though, I have been on PHNX Sun Devils before. It was just pre-Totri.
The pre-Totri era?
Yes.
Oh, man. Look, a lot's obviously happening and happened already in the Pac-12 with Arizona State and then Colorado. I feel like at least through this offseason, those two programs have kind of just been linked just because of both kind of have had mass exoduses, both new coaches. You guys obviously with Deion, ASU, with Kenny. We've seen it from a national perspective, but I'm just curious as somebody who is down in Colorado, who spends a lot of time covering CU, just what the vibes are like right now, still with Deion at the helm.
It's honestly like nothing I've ever seen in terms of a culture change, in terms of an attitude change, in terms of, you said the word vibes, in terms of a vibes change when it comes to the feeling around the program. I mean, I'm a diehard Buffs fan. I think about the Buffs probably in the top 0.001% of people. And over the last few years, like no one outside of that little circle wanted to talk about Colorado. Mm-hmm. Now, if you wear a shirt, or you wear a hat with a Buffs logo on it, and you're just like at the airport, someone will just be like, "Hey, Coach Prime, like, what do you think of this?" And the golf course, wherever you go, like everyone just wants to talk about Colorado. So that is one of the craziest shifts because outside of, the diehards, no one has wanted to talk about it at all. Now it's all anyone wants to talk about. And then you talk about inside the program. And the shift that I'll actually talk about is not the one that just happened when Coach Prime got here, which was a big shift. But since the spring transfer portal kind of changed everything, and everyone got sent out with the Exodus, and they brought in all these new guys, the feeling around the team is an absolute 180. It's, there's so much competition in practice or in the weight room or wherever it is. And these guys are just like, I don't know. The best way I can, I guess, describe it is like for the first time in a long time, this looks like a team that actually thinks they're good and believes it.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up the exodus of players, and I think that was a big thing from a national perspective. Like, at least since Deion had got there, like 60-plus players, like entering the portal, whatever. I think with the difference between Arizona State's, I guess, transfer portal situation when players left was like, at least from a fan perspective, people were like, okay, like we get it, right? New head coach, like there's an ongoing investigation with the program, whatever. We understand the players leaving. I feel like with Deion, it was like at least the national narrative was a little bit different with it. It was almost like Deion was pushing these players out a little bit. What's your perspective on the way that whole situation kind of played out and how the roster stands now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation because, you feel for these guys who came to a Colorado program when we were down horrendous and said, like, I want to wear the black and gold.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have Coach Prime coming in here and, like, this is his ass on the line. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't, like, if they lose, it's not going on anyone else. Like, everyone in the country is pointing their finger at Coach Prime. And so he looks around at this roster and says, like, well, these guys can't win. I can't win with these guys. And so I think there was, like, a very, a showing of the door to many players. Maybe you're not saying you have to leave, but you're like, we strongly recommend that you enter the portal because we don't have a role for you here.
Yeah.
And so it was very swift. It was as aggressive as I think you could possibly be with a roster turnover. But like I said, it was understandable because this team was bad last year, and I don't even know if the people, especially nationally, who are just tuning into Colorado and they see that one win, I don't know if they realize how bad it was. Like, they weren't just losing; they were getting blown out every single week, and there were very, very few Pac-12 caliber players on the roster, so they kind of did what they had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the Pac-12 caliber roster players you guys had, Jordan Tyson. I just remember when he played against Arizona State that one time. This dude had just flashes of a really talented player, somebody who could, I feel like, at some point maybe make that jump to the next level. Obviously, Jordan Tyson, one of the players that entered the transfer portal, now joining Kenny Dillingham, and he's an Arizona State Sun Devil. Just from what you saw, what do you think Jordan Tyson brings to Arizona State?
Yeah, electricity. He is a very electric player, and there was a point at last season where he was the only reason worth tuning into the games. Like,
Yeah.
you turned on the game and you're just like, I hope Jordan Tyson does something cool today, and most of the time he actually did do something cool. So he's an electric player. He comes from a storied program in Texas. And it was honestly shocking because you go to a powerhouse, you're super productive. I think he was their leading receiver his senior year, and yet the offers don't show up. That just never added up to me.
Yeah.
Colorado comes knocking, and he shows up, and I remember within like weeks of him getting on campus, getting texts from people being like, "This guy's the truth. Watch out." And it's just so unfortunate that injury happened because you just never know how guys come back from such a thing. So,
Yeah.
I'm pulling for him, but if he does get back and he gets healthy, he is a extremely electric player, just one of those guys where you just want to get the ball in his hands and let him work.
Absolutely. I want to get back to Deion and Kenny because I feel like similar to a draft, right? NBA draft, NFL draft, whoever goes 1 and 2, their careers are always kind of linked together for eternity, I guess. Obviously, it's a little bit different with these coaches in the Pac-12. I know Stanford got themselves a new head coach as well, but it doesn't really feel like anybody's talking about the Stanford Cardinal right now.
Yeah.
Just between Kenny and Deion, do you think Colorado has a better season than Arizona State this year? I know you're not around Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham a lot, but you're there firsthand all the time with Deion in Colorado, so I'm curious just your thoughts on the upcoming season.
Well, let me start with this. Who is going to be the starting quarterback for Arizona State?
My money says Trenton Bourguet is the starting quarterback for Arizona State.
Okay. I think Colorado has the better season.
Okay.
And the biggest reason, we can talk Coach Prime all day long. The biggest reason I think they have the better season and why I think they're actually being undervalued is because of Shedeur Sanders. I honestly believe he's going to be right there in the conversation with the best quarterbacks in the conference. In the tier below Caleb Williams. I don't think he's going to quite be, going toe-to-toe with the Heisman winner, but I think he's right below that in that second tier of Pac-12 quarterbacks. And I think he's going to win them 4 games, just him. Just he made the big throws. He made the third down conversion late in the game to get them the points, whatever it may be. Like, I think that he's that good. And I think, in terms of a college quarterback, the combination of football IQ and accuracy that he has is so incredibly valuable. And it's something that Colorado has been missing for literally decades. So I think he's that good, and I think he's going to make a massive difference. And I think ASU is going to be an improved football team. I don't know what the quarterback. Like, if you had said it's Rashada, he's that guy, he's going to walk in and just be the best player on the team, then I would have been like, okay, well, now I have to think twice about this.
Yeah.
But I think that the quarterback really is what it boils down to in this conference, and I think that Shedeur will be better than Bourguet.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm interested. I'm really interested, obviously, to see how Shedeur's game translates from Jackson State to Colorado. In terms of Bourguet, he's one of the smartest players that I've been around, and you hear that from the coaches and his teammates as well. Rashada, he's just not there yet, man. Not there yet.
Yeah.
It's you see the arm talent in a kid of his age, and you get excited. You're like, okay, maybe I understand why there was a university out there that was ready to pay this freshman $10+ million in an NIL deal. Eventually he'll get there. He took big strides from that very first week in the spring to that spring game at the end. Hopefully he makes that jump in the fall and maybe spices up the quarterback competition just a little bit. But as it stands right now, I feel like Bourguet is that guy. Something that...
Well, and that's what you expect, right? Like, it's very rare for a guy to just walk onto campus and be the starting quarterback immediately. Like, it's something we talk about when we talk about UCLA.
Yeah.
who is in a similar situation, though I think their other option outside of Moore isn't as good as what you guys have. But for me, I'm like, man, they're asking a lot of him if he's going to be the starting quarterback to come in as an 18-year-old kid and lead, a program like UCLA.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get into like a day and age now of college football with the portal and NIL. And I feel like your situation is like, okay, we've got, a really highly touted and recruited 5-star freshman quarterback. Do we play him because we want him to stay on the roster, or do we sit him and then you get to next season and you're kind of like, okay, well, he might enter the transfer portal? I feel like it's such a slippery slope.
Absolutely, and I like this little Colorado Arizona State kind of back-to-back rivalry,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, because it is going to be really interesting. Um, the thing that I don't know with Coach Prime, I just think it's so rare for a player of that caliber to be a coach, and not even at like one of the biggest programs in the country.
Yeah.
I was joking. I'm like, it's not quite this, but it's similar to if Michael Jordan decided he wanted to be the coach at Cal. And it's just like, okay, well, this just changed everything. Like
Yeah.
every person, especially the parents, but even the kids, like when Deion Sanders is coming to your house, like everyone sits up in their chair in a way that I just don't think any other coach in the country can capture.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've pointed this out a lot. Like it is going to come down to what you can do on the field. Like recruiting is half the battle.
Yeah.
The transfer portal is a smaller percentage than that. And can he coach? I really think he can. I think that he understands the game on like a master's level, and I think he can coach, and I think he put together a really good coaching staff. But it is like kind of the traditional route, going to from a coordinator from a big school versus this whole new unique situation that
Yeah.
Colorado's going into. So I like that we're going to be compared.
It's going to be fun for sure. And I think something that doesn't get talked enough about the link between Arizona State and Colorado, at least as it stands now, right, is you mentioned Arizona State going the more traditional route, getting a guy that's been a coordinator several years, eventually bringing him home and kind of elevating him, versus Colorado. We got a shiny new toy in Coach Prime Sanders, and he's going to be our guy. I feel like Arizona State experimented with that, not to the same level of a Deion Sanders by any means, but you say Herm Edwards in Tempe, and you better start running the other way. Obviously, again, it wasn't the same caliber, but what makes you think that Deion is going to have Colorado in a different place than Herm left Arizona State?
Well, first of all, I never like the NFL to college transition.
Yeah.
I just think it's when you're in the NFL, this is everyone's job. It's a totally different vibe than it is in college football. Deion is actually coming from the reverse of that. He's going from youth football to high school football to college football at a lower level to now
Yeah.
college football at the Power Five. And I think that he understands and truly like loves kids in the way that you have to when you are a college football coach. So right then and there, I think it's a totally different situation. And the big thing for me is just the understanding of how the world works now. It's not just the transfer portal and how important that is and how you kind of have to constantly be recruiting your own roster, but it is the social media and the way that Colorado is like featured when it comes to YouTube. I
Yeah.
think if anyone wants to consider Colorado, they have this unique opportunity to just go onto YouTube and see what it's like. Like,
Yeah.
there's no other place where you can just tap into the locker room immediately and just be like, huh, that kind of looks fun. I'd like to go there. Or maybe you decide, I don't know if this is for me. But I think it's that. And then you add in his recruiting chops. I think the coaching staff that he assembled shows that it's not his ego in the way that I think a lot of his detractors think it is. He went out there and just said, like, give me what's the best available coach we can get for this position, not like who's going to say yes to me when I want them to do X, Y, or Z. And so I think he has a unique understanding and a very good understanding of what it's going to take to be successful. And I think he believes in himself to press the buttons to get there.
It's definitely going to be interesting, man. Last couple questions, and then I'll get you out of here. Something else I feel like that makes it a super interesting time to have a coach like Deion Sanders, or I guess just really have a new coach in general in this age of college athletics as a whole, right? Is the conference realignment situation that you have and that you saw really with UCLA, USC last season, obviously Oklahoma and Texas as well. I feel like when anybody talks Pac-12 teams to leave, or at least the next Pac-12 teams to leave over the last month and change, you're hearing Colorado and you're hearing Arizona. Arizona State, from a fan perspective, I can tell you fans want ASU out of the Pac-12. They do not want to be here getting left behind like they kind of did in the whole NIL realm a few years back. But do you think that's a serious option for Colorado to leave? And do you think that they are really at the forefront of the next Pac-12 teams to kind of depart this conference?
Yes, I do. And I just don't know how fast it's going to happen. Like, there's part of me that thinks, like, as soon as the deal comes out and it's below that threshold that it has to be on to, click in the contract, I think Colorado might just, like, be out the next day.
Yeah.
Or maybe, it's going to be a slower process and this takes a little while. But what I really think is that, you have Coach Prime there. He obviously brings value and eyeballs wherever he goes. And I think he looks at the Big 12 and says, so you're going to let me go and recruit Texas in a way that I can't do right now? And they just added UCF, so now I can go recruit Florida in a way that I can't right now. He's like, sign me up. And I honestly think Colorado is like, well, if he's in, we're in. And so they're probably ready to do that. And I think that they might even look at the Big 12 as a more valuable move than the average team would because of those reasons that I mentioned.
Absolutely. Last question. Like I said earlier, the whole conversation of next teams to leave the Pac-12, Colorado and Arizona, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon, kind of getting left behind. From your perspective, if you had to choose between Arizona and Arizona State to join Colorado and head to the Big 12, would you choose Arizona or would you choose Arizona State? They obviously both have different incentives to leave the conference.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure your audience is already annoyed with me, so I'm going to go with this answer, which is I much, much prefer the trip to Tempe than I do the trip to Tucson.
Yeah.
And going to the Big 12, we're already giving up a bunch of good trips, right? You're taking California out of there, and I really like going to Tempe. So I will say bring me Arizona State. Here is why I think the Big 12 might look at it differently. Is I think that they're viewing this as, okay, well, we can have an okay football conference. That's fine. Let's have the best basketball conference. And so I think they might look, okay, well, now you're adding Arizona to Kansas and, all the other schools that they have in there. But if it is up to me for selfish reasons, I will take Tempe.
I'm here for it, man. Absolutely here for it. RK, it's been a pleasure as always, man. Trust me, when it hits mid-season, if CU is outperforming their expectations, I imagine some DNVR Buffs fans are going to be on me on social media, but I'll be right back if they're not, man. I'll be right back.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think this interview, we need to get in the same room. This was too civil. We'll be down there for the Arizona State game. Then we can get in the room and really butt heads over this.
We'll make some noise, man. We'll make some noise. Have a good one, RK.
All right. See you guys.